I wanted to thank everyone for having me here today. This is my first virtual speech. It's a little weird not being in the room, but let's see how it goes. So today, I'd like to tell you all a story about house paint, TikTok, and how 1.5 million Gen Zers can teach us all a valuable but uncomfortable lesson. And that lesson is businesses no longer have sole ownership of their brands. Let me say that again. Businesses no longer have sole ownership of their brands. Now, this fact has been true for some time, but you probably haven't noticed because up until now, your core customers, your core employees, and your core brand advocates have been baby boomers, Gen Zers, and millennials. Those three cohorts, boomers, Xers, millennials, are the consumers that most brands have built their businesses around. Those three cohorts share more similarities than differences. They view and experience the world similarly to how you and I do, and how your brand does. That is not the case for Generation Z. Generation Z, they are just not the same. Generation Z, people born between the ages of 6 to 24, have an average attention span of 8 seconds. And they are social media native, everybody. They've been documenting, sharing, and broadcasting their entire lives since birth. Their concept of ownership is different from any other generation. They've never owned music or movies. They've only subscribed to them or shared them. They don't remember a world without home sharing through companies like Airbnb. They do not know a world where they can access anything at any time from any place from the palm of their hand. Generation Z is just different. Gen Z's worldview is just different. And unlike previous generations, it's not strange for them to not to just be consumers, but share ownership of the brands that they love. Gen Z believes that for the brands that they love, it is perfectly normal for them to engage not just as consumers, but as marketers, as strategists, as part owners. This new reality, the reality where companies do not have sole ownership of their brands, presents a significant challenge. And that leads to a situation where there's no playbook. And that brings me to the story that I want to share with you all today about house paint, TikTok, and how 1.5 Gen Zers are going to teach us all a very valuable but uncomfortable lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, this story begins with a Gen Zer by the name of Tony Peloso. Tony is a college student who worked at a Sherwin-Williams mixing paint. Now, Tony loved mixing paint, loved his job. So, like a normal Gen Zer, Tony, he created a TikTok channel called Tonester Paints, documenting his experience mixing different colors of paint to music. And as he progressed, his videos became more creative, more unconventional, more interesting. Over a matter of months, Tony starts to build a significant Gen Z following for his Sherwin-Williams paint channel. The channel grows and grows and grows to over 1.5 million people. Now, Generation Z is not Sherwin-Williams' core demographic today. However, Gen Zers are now the main influencers of all family household purchases. According to the National Retail Federation, 87% of parents say their children influence their purchase decisions for the home. But more importantly, in just 4 years, the oldest cohort of Gen Z will be Sherwin-Williams ideal customers. They'll be buying their first homes, moving into their first apartments, and they'll be looking to brands like Sherwin-Williams during that stage of their lives. Tony was so excited about the community that he built for Sherwin-Williams that he reached out to their marketing department and met with them to share with them the great news. The wonderful news that he went off on his own with his own initiative and created a community of over 1.5 million Sherwin-Williams paint enthusiasts. Tony thought that he'd be greeted as a hero. Tony was so excited. Now, instead of Sherwin-Williams getting excited, instead of Sherwin-Williams seeing this as the gift that it was, ladies and gentlemen, companies are spending hundreds of millions of dollars trying to engage with Generation Z in any way that they can. They're begging to engage with them. Instead of being excited, Sherwin-Williams was incensed. Instead of being excited, they were enraged and they fired him. Let me put this into perspective. Tony's TikTok paint community was one of the largest paint enthusiast community in the country. 1.5 million users with over 25 million likes. It had hundreds of thousands of potential Sherwin-Williams customers excited to receive the content from a Sherwin-Williams employee. You would think that they would love this. You would think that they would be excited. No, they fired him. Sherwin-Williams fired Tony for gross misconduct of the use of the company brand. They were so stuck in the process, so stuck in the past, that they failed to see what was built. They failed to see the value. They failed to see the greatness of this community because this community was created by some kid using the brand and products in a way that they did not authorize, that they did not own. And unfortunately for Sherwin-Williams, that decision turned out to be a public relations disaster. Folks, it was so bad that Bloomberg News rated Sherwin-Williams' decision to fire Tony as the second worst PR move in all of 2020. This move alienated and angered the TikTok community of Sherwin-Williams fans that Tony built. These fans, of course, ridiculed Sherwin-Williams, posted tons of negative comments, and got tons of bad press and bad headlines. And not only did they ridicule Sherwin-Williams, and it was a headache for their PR department, all of those fans found another corporate home. After the news got out about Tony's firing, every major paint company in America offered him a job, wanting to capitalize on the community that he built. Rightfully so. And Tony ended up at a smaller paint chain that was local to him called Florida Paints. Florida Paints happily gave Tony a home and welcomed his 1.5 million potential customers, and decided, instead of fighting those Gen Z consumers, instead of competing with them, Florida Paints would share ownership with them. They would share ownership with their brand with those potential customers. And this looks like taking suggestions and advice from the community, commenting on the TikTok page, really enjoying it, treating these potential customers, treating this community as co-owners of the Florida Paint brand. I tell you this story not to judge or ridicule Sherwin-Williams, because their reaction is an example of what many marketers and brands would do, because most companies have not spent the necessary time thinking about how Gen Z is going to change everything and challenge all the assumptions that they have. The headline here, the lesson that businesses, brand marketers, brand owners should take from this story is that because of Generation Z, you no longer have sole ownership of your brand. And if you don't take that into account, you are going to hurt your brand. Thank you.